Welcome to another video from Gweilo 60. Today we're going to be talking about the trade war. I was watching Winston, Serpentza, talking about the trade war and how China's been taking advantage of the United States or the rest of the world with their developing country status at the World Trade Organization. And I thought, no, this is wrong. Winston, you got this one backwards, or you're not looking at it from the right angle. You made the analogy that you're making dinner and your friend goes out and gets all of the good food and everything, and after you make the meal you say, oh, it's all me. Well, no, it's not really like that. The analogy should have been more about everybody's invited to dinner and everybody brings their potluck, and a developed country can afford to bring steak or pork chops or something good, and the developing country can bring spam or bologna. They just don't have the funds available to bring the steak. You're looking at a country like China that is considered a developing country in the World Trade Organization, and they've got 1.4 billion people. 150 of those million people, 150 million of those people are below the poverty line. See, 30% of all people in China live on $1 a day or less. Okay, so there's widespread poverty in China. You're not looking at a city like Shenzhen where you live. You're not looking at Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, these bigger cities that, yes, they look like your modern first world city, and even more when you look at Shanghai. But you've got to look at the whole country as a whole. The reason why China is considered a developing country and was exempt from tariffs and was given benefits, like you talk about, being able to ship stuff from a developing country to a developed country. Yes, way cheaper, and it sort of helps to even the playing field. You get a company in Guangzhou that they make bikes, say electric bikes, but how would they be able to ship those overseas if it was just too expensive for them? You could manufacture, but you couldn't sell internationally. What does international sales do? Well, look at what China's done over the last 20 years. They brought hundreds of millions of people out of poverty because they were an export country, a manufacturing and export country. Well, that's great. And where has it brought them today? Well, they're a better country than they were 20 years ago. Yeah, they have a communist government, but you know as well as I do that it's more of a capitalist country than it is communist. The basic ideals of the government are still communist, and it's a one-party system, and that's the way China is. But the economics is a different story. You get 150 million of these people are in poverty. That's the size of Russia. That's 4 times Canada. That's 1 in every 3 people, or 1 in every 2.5 people in the United States. What would you see if China lost their developing country status at the World Trade Organization? Well, things would get pretty rough pretty quick in China, because exporting would cost more. It does cost more now with the tariffs that the United States is putting on, and not only that, but stuff coming into China from the United States, your fruits and whatever, I've been told by a lot of the people that I know in China that it's getting more expensive there too. So, the people that had not a bad living, it's not as good anymore because of Trumponomics in the United States, leveling tariffs against China, thinking that China is a strong country economically like the United States. Well, that's just not true. If you break the GDP down in China to a GDP per capita, you're looking at China coming in as the 90th country in the world. Okay, well, 89 countries in the world have a higher GDP per capita than China does. When you look at fresh water consumption in China, it's 1/3 of normal, not normal, of a regular country. Okay, what do I mean by regular? Well, in places like the UK, Australia, Canada, Argentina, places like that, for every liter that each person uses in those countries, China uses 1/3 of a liter. So they don't have access to the fresh water. Why? Because they don't have the infrastructure. They don't have, think of the health infrastructure. Think of the water and sewer infrastructure. Sure, you've got it in the big cities. But in places like Bobai and Yulin, where their village is, no, they don't have that infrastructure put in place. Like a developed country would have, Canada, the United States, or any of these countries that I was talking about. I'm in Bobai in 2005, 2006, and we're sitting there on the farm, and Wei Feng's uncle shows up, and he's like clay mud from head to toe, and he's got a shovel in his hand. I said, what were you doing? He's over helping the neighbor dig a well. Yes, digging a well on the farm in Bobai, and this is where they get their clean water from. Yeah, it's different than here, eh? You don't see your farmer in Saskatchewan going out and digging a well with a shovel so he can have clean water for his family. You know, so you've got to take that into consideration when you're trying to take away the developing country status of China, like Trump wants to do, and he's been fighting for it, and China's been fighting back. Oh, and Trump, 2-3 days ago, he took the developing country status away from India, and now they're a lower middle class designation. Well, we're going to see what that's going to do to India, because India's got problems too. But I'm not here to talk about India. I'm here to talk about China. So the thing is that taking the status away from a country like China will put it back 10 years. Will make it more difficult for hundreds of millions of people to survive day to day. It's not like in Canada. It's not like in the States, where we're looking at tomorrow, next week, next month, next year as, yeah, things are okay, and I'm not going to starve, and we've got social nets, and we've got all of these things that a developed country has. Where China, they're still fighting their way to get to that point. There's people in places like Bobai that they're rice farmers. They're growing pigs. They're plowing their field with a water buffalo. Yes, they don't have a tractor. They don't have the machinery. They can't afford the gas. On $1 a day, boy, you get about halfway through the field, and that liter, that $1.50 a liter gas would be gone, and you know what I mean. So they're still using water buffalo to plow the fields in a lot of these rural communities, and that I know of in southern Guangxi province. Okay, so we don't have to deal with that stuff here in the Western world, or the Eastern world for that matter, in the more developed countries. So if you look at it that way, it's one of those things that Trump better give his head a shake. There are a lot of reasons that the World Trade Organization would give developing country status to different countries, and the days of financing these developing countries is over. The developed countries want these developing countries to make their own money, and part of helping them do that is giving them benefits that the developed countries don't have, and until such time as these countries can, and I'm speaking about China basically, can compete on the world stage without needing a helping hand from the developed countries, that time isn't going to be here for another 10 or 20 years. They've still got lots of people that live in rural China, and until they have the benefits of the people that live in the bigger cities, close to a hospital, drinkable water, education, because in places like Bobai and Yulin and rural areas, the older boys and ladies, they have no education, and they speak their local language. They don't speak Mandarin, they don't speak Cantonese, they speak their local language, and they've never been educated past that. You get the younger generation, and a lot of the younger generation goes to like grade 6, and then they're on the farm working because they're needed there. There's things that the Westerners don't see that somebody that lives in China does. And the idea of trying to strip a country of their developing status when they're only halfway there, it'll just, you want to see poverty rear its ugly head in China again? Strip them of their developing country status at the WTO, and you will see that ugly head really quickly. I would think that the whole region, because China is sort of the big boy on the block over there, you'd see the whole region sort of go into a recession. And I know that the Trump administration really doesn't give a rat's ass about China and their people and their economy, or Vietnam or Laos or Cambodia, Thailand, Indonesia, all of these economies that sort of rely on China as the big brother. All of these countries, because of this trade war, are in trouble, and if it keeps going on, China says, well, we're in it for the long walk. Well, yeah, China's been through a lot of shit in the last 100 years, and they know how to fight back. They know how to wait it out, and I think that's probably what's going to happen here, is that they will have to wait this out, and they will have to wait till Trump is no longer in the White House. But then again, you never know, the next one might be just as bad or worse, so I don't know. Anyway, that's my sort of a rebuttal to Winston's trade war video that he put out the other day. I think he missed the nail with that one, and I thought I'd put my 2 cents worth in, because you know me, I always like to put my 2 cents worth in. Anyway, that's another video from Gweilo 60. If you like this video, as always, like, comment, subscribe, push that share button, and thanks for watching. Oh, and you like this this nice little spot I found? Oh yeah, it's nice and quiet. It's got the babbling brook in the background, babbling just like Gweilo 60 likes to babble. Yes, so at least I know it. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye now.